In the year 12 AD, a child was born in the heart of Rome after the birth of Christ. However, nobody could have predicted that he would become the most cruel person to have ever lived. Caligula ruled the Roman Empire for 4 years between 37 and 41 AD. His upbringing by psychopathic parents and the brutal environment in which he grew up provided ample grounds for him to become a lunatic. His strange behavior began with his baldness complex. He did not allow anyone to look down on him and made everyone around him shave their hair. But believe me, these are just a few of his actions compared to what he would later do. He had the heads of God statues brought from all over the country and had his own face mounted on them. Of course, these are just the beginning. He declared himself a god and ordered people to sacrifice to him. His depravity was such that he fathered a child with his sister. However, before the birth, he had her stomach opened and the fetus removed, which he also declared half god. When his sister Drusilla died, he banned laughter, bathing, eating with family, and talking to each other on the streets during the summer in Rome. Despite his actions, Caligula's nicknames may seem somewhat interesting. He was called Father of the Homeland and Armies, the Best and Greatest Ruler, the Faithful Man, and many other names. But the best part is that he gave these names to himself. During those times, Roman emperors were the most powerful and untouchable people in the world, and this power intoxication allowed weak-minded individuals like Caligula to do unimaginable things. If you met his gaze, know that it meant a death sentence, and a crazy one at that. He took great pleasure in watching his own specially made torture instruments that would tear almost all of the bones out of a living person's body. Especially during meal times, he would enjoy a taste of it. To fill the empty state coffers resulting from his extravagant spending, he had simple solutions. He would kill the rich and seize their property. But that wasn't enough for him. He found a different solution. Caligula, the emperor of Rome, forced the wives and daughters of powerful individuals, including senators, to work in a large brothel that he had established. During the opening of the brothel, he addressed the public, saying, "Behold, Rome, what gifts your God has bestowed upon you. I give you all the families of the senators. For a small fee, you may play with them as you wish." Caligula did not trust or like the senators, and he even wanted to make his horse a senator, for which he had prepared a special palace. He would sometimes sleep with the horse and force some senators to run alongside him on horseback for hours. He also dressed them up like women and made them dance for his amusement, particularly enjoying fat men as his first choice for such antics. Caligula would kill some senators for no reason and then invite them to meetings as if they were still alive. When they didn't show up, he spread rumors that they had committed suicide. He enjoyed watching gladiator fights, but instead of using professional fighters, he would have sick, old, or disabled people fight in the arena. He also organized battles between groups of dwarfs. Exotic animal fights, such as those between lions or elephants, were popular in the Roman arenas, but Caligula especially enjoyed throwing unlucky people from the audience into the ring with these animals. When the cost of small animals used as food for the wild fighting animals in the arena became too high, Caligula ordered that captive humans be used instead. He personally chose which captives would be used, based on his strange selection criteria, such as, from this bald man to that bald man. His biggest fear was being forgotten because no disaster had happened during his reign, unlike the times of Emperor Augustus, who was remembered for the Varus defeat. and Emperor Tiberius, who was associated with the collapse of the theater in Fidena. Therefore, Caligula prayed for a great military defeat, a plague, a fire, or an earthquake to occur. He was known to dress up as every god and goddess, wander around in women's clothing like Aphrodite, and pick up seashells as booty by making a military landing on the beach because of his quarrel with Neptune. One day, he wanted to execute a general named Breeks but couldn't find an excuse to do so. Breeks was an honest and honorable soldier. Caligula then turned to him and said, "You are an honest man, Breeks, therefore you cannot be a true Roman. I am arresting you for treason." This statement was so profound that it seemed to embody the existence of all the dictators who had ever lived. One midnight, he summoned 3 people who had previously held consulships to his palace. These poor men, fearing they would be killed, were both delighted and shocked to learn that Caligula had called them there to dance with him by force. He had a spark of goodness within him, but he was the embodiment of pure evil, filled with cruelty and perversion. People began to hate him so much that he was stoned in many uprisings, and the streets of Rome were repeatedly filled with blood. Either he would disappear, or he would destroy the Roman people. His jokes were only funny to him. He would pee in the food of the senators, feed them the person he had killed, and then tell them about the disgusting act after they had finished eating. He would laugh heartily at the sight of them vomiting. Before Caligula, Emperor Tiberius had adopted him as his nephew because he had no heir. However, Caligula's mercilessness and violent tendencies began to emerge at a young age. He enjoyed watching executions, dressed up in strange clothes, and wore a wig while singing and dancing outside at night. He organized bizarre parties filled with madness that one could not imagine. He even forced those around him to practice cannibalism. Emperor Tiberius called Caligula a water snake for the Romans and a python for the world. We see how accurate Tiberius's observation was in this text. Actually, his full name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, but he was given the nickname Caligula by the soldiers when he was young because he used to wander around the army camps in soldiers' clothing, which means little boots. He was known by that name from then on. When he brought his horse into the Senate and proclaimed that it was now the new consul, it sparked a rebellion. In January of 41 AD, a group of guards attacked Caligula as he was walking through tunnels after a sports competition, and some of his body parts were given to dogs, while the rest was buried in a shallow grave. His wife and daughter were also killed by being stabbed. After his death, the Senate launched a major restructuring effort to restore the Republic and erase him from Roman history by toppling his statues. Thousands of books have been written about Caligula, and many horror movie characters were inspired by him. The most famous film about him is the one directed by Tinto Brass, titled Caligula. Historians and experts believe that his many disorders, including epilepsy and schizophrenia, were the cause of his depravity. The photo you see on the screen was created by reconstructing his real face based on the sculptures made in his honor. You can see that his hair was quite thick, which is actually due to the fear that the artists who lived during his time had of him. They wanted to depict him with thick hair in order to show his power. I could only cover a small part of what he did because our laws do not allow us to disclose more. If you want to learn more, you can subscribe to my channel.